Hello and welcome! It has been over a month since Insta360 introduced these new accessories for the X4, the folding selfie stick and the mini remote. And finally I got my hands on them, so let's check them out. Well over a month ago, Insta360 introduced these two new accessories, and pretty much from the day they were launched, they were out of stock, in particular the mini remote. But finally I was able to get my hands on them, so today we're going to check them out. Now I purchased the combo kit, which consists of both the folding selfie stick and the mini remote, but these can be purchased separately, assuming of course they're in stock. So there's a lot to cover, so as usual I'm going to place the chapters up here and on the video timeline, but first this. Before we continue with today's video, a quick disclaimer: this video is not sponsored, paid for, or influenced in any way. I purchased all of the equipment with my own money and the opinions are entirely my own. Now I do include links to the featured products as well as my recording equipment. These may appear throughout the video and in the video description. If you purchase using these links, I may make a commission, and this is what helps fund the channel, but rest assured there is no price disadvantage to you. You are getting the best price I can find. Alternatively, if you want to support the channel, you could follow this link and buy me a coffee. And of course, if you enjoyed today's video, please remember to hit the like button and consider subscribing to the channel for a lot more similar content. So back to the video. So if you purchase just the mini remote, this is what you will receive. There is of course the remote itself. We have what's called the mounting base, a couple of rubber straps and an instruction manual. Starting out with the remote itself, as the name suggests, it is very compact, having just a single button, a single status light, and on one end you will find a USB-C port for charging. And we will get into the details of connecting the remote and using it to operate the camera in a later section. In addition to the remote, there is this mounting base, which together with these rubber straps can be used to connect the mini remote to the handlebars of a bike, your skiing pole, selfie stick, and so on. It's pretty simple to do, and it holds the remote very firmly in place. There is a small rubber plug here which can be used to seal up the USB-C port to prevent any moisture or dirt entering it, but it's pretty tricky to do, and once you've tried and failed a few times you'll probably never use it. Also worth mentioning, this clip can be rotated freely and placed in whatever orientation works for you. And if you order the folding selfie stick, this is what you will receive. There is of course the selfie stick itself, more details on that in a moment. It also comes with this strange looking strap which can double as both a wrist strap as well as a lens protector when your X4 is in the stored position. More on that in a moment also. There is one other item which is included, and that is what is called the storage cover. It's basically just a small plastic insert which magnetically connects to the selfie stick. This is of course where normally the mini remote will go. And this little storage cover has a slot in each end for a micro SD card. And if I can demonstrate that, you can see it just clips in here. And so I can use it to carry around my spare micro SD cards. Now, one word of warning: there is no spring mechanism on this guy to insert and eject the card. So once it's in there, it holds onto it pretty tightly, and you have to get your nail behind the little ridge on the SD card in order to pull it out, which sometimes can take a little bit of practice. And of course, if you order the full combo kit, you will get all of these items, in which case the first thing you will do is take out the storage cover. You'll put that away somewhere in a drawer, never to be used again, and you will place the mini remote in place on the selfie stick. And you'll be glad to know that it is very firmly held in place, so it's definitely not going to come loose very easily. So let's take a closer look at the new foldable selfie stick. Well, first off, I'll say that it does have a nice quality look and feel. It feels very solid in the hand, and you have this nice convenient thumb wheel here in order to attach your X4. Now, of course, the folding selfie stick will extend out telescopically, but not as far as other selfie sticks. At its maximum extension, it is just a shade over 22 inches, which is pretty short when compared to the standard selfie stick at 40 inches. But of course, the headline feature of the folding selfie stick, when collapsed, simply press the button on the side here, and you can then fold it together for easy storage in a jacket pocket or in a bag, something that would be pretty difficult with the standard selfie stick. And that's also where this nice handy strap comes in. Simply place this over the lenses, pull it tight, and obviously this will provide excellent protection for your X4 when it's being stored. And when it comes time to use the camera, simply slip off the case. You can either unfold it yourself, or if you want to look cool, you can flip it open, which, as you can see, takes quite a bit of practice. Now, the folding selfie stick has one more trick up its sleeve. If you check out the base, you will see it has 3 little rubber feet here, which if you pull down on them, now this takes a little bit of effort. Initially, I thought there was a locking mechanism, but you just have to persist, and you pull them out and you have a nice tripod, which is pretty sturdy. Okay, so before we connect the mini remote to my X4, the first thing we're going to do is make sure that my X4 is updated to the very newest firmware, and for that we're going to open up the Insta360 app. So in our Insta360 app, we're going to connect to the X4. And as you can see, there is a new firmware release available, version 1.7.18, and the main focus of this firmware update is for optimized connection performance between the camera and the mini remote control. So I click Update Firmware. And a couple of minutes later, we are updated to the newest version. So now we have successfully updated the firmware. Let's go ahead and connect our mini remote. I'm going to power it on. You can see now the green light. It looks more blue to me, but according to Insta360, this is a green flashing light, which indicates that it is powered on and in pairing mode. So I'm going to go into my menu here and scroll over to my remote icon. Now, before I do this, very important to mention, if you have previously been connected with another Insta360 remote, it is critical that you remove it, otherwise the mini remote will not pair. So I have removed mine, so I'm going to activate searching. And you can see it finds the mini remote. And now I am connected. So now I can use the mini remote to start recording. It will start recording using whatever mode is currently selected. You are not able to change the mode by using the mini remote, of course, because there's just a single button. And of course another press will stop the recording. If I want to power off the camera and the remote, I simply hold down the record button. For 2 seconds, it powers off both the camera and the remote. By pressing and holding the power button again, it will power on the remote and it will wake up my X4. And as is typical with Insta360 devices, even though the camera is woken, it will take a few seconds for the remote to connect and be operational. Now, even though the remote takes a few seconds to connect, you can still use the mini remote in order to start quick capture. The way you do that is, instead of a long press on the record button, you do a double press. It wakes up the camera similarly, but immediately starts recording. And as you'll see a few seconds later, the remote is connected and is available for operating the camera again. And of course, when you stop the recording, it will power off the camera when the recording is stopped unless you intervene. When it does so, however, the remote remains powered on, so you will need to hold the power button to power it off also. And one final thing to mention in this section, and it is something that has been a problem with Insta360 cameras for several years now. So as we saw previously, I have these two paired, and when I hold down the record button, it powers on both the remote and the X4. And after a few seconds, the Bluetooth of course connects. If I power down, and then for any reason, if I remove the battery, whether it is to change the battery or access the memory card, when I replace the battery and I attempt to power on, you'll notice that the remote will power on, but the X4 does not. So for some reason, the Bluetooth wake function no longer works after you have swapped out the battery. Now they are still paired, and if I manually power on the X4, you will see after a few seconds again, it will automatically reconnect with the remote. And now the two are paired once again and will function as expected. When I power off and power back on again, it will wake up the camera. So I would say most of the time when I'm using my X4, I prefer the standard selfie stick. It has a good range of extension, and when it is collapsed, it is pretty portable and easy to carry around, but it's not exactly pocketable, and it does present some challenges in terms of where to store it when you're not filming. And that, of course, is where the new folding selfie stick comes in. When I'm done recording with it, I can simply fold it up and it will fit very easily away in a pocket. When I'm ready to shoot again, I simply bring it out and I'm ready to record again. Now, I think probably the biggest drawback of the folding selfie stick is its limited extension at only just over 22 inches compared to 40 inches on the standard selfie stick. Now, this could be a problem in a number of different cases. For example, if you are filming yourself, you might want to get a little bit further away. That would reduce the amount of distortion in the image and make for a more natural image. And we'll do some testing on that in just a moment. Or perhaps you're in a crowd and you want to use it to gain some height and get above the crowd. That could also be a limiting factor. Now, obviously, if you are just doing some vlogging, the limited extension probably won't be too much of a problem. But if you want to get a little bit further away and get more of your background in the shot, then it might be a limitation. So this is what I would consider the standard view using the foldable selfie stick. And this is the equivalent view using the standard selfie stick. Now, for both of these shots, all of the camera settings are identical. The only difference between them is the selfie stick. Now, in order to create these videos, all I did was load the 360 file into the Insta360 Studio and simply used the subject tracking. And that's why I'm referring to this as the standard view. Now, of course, I could reframe manually to get a similar view, but with some pretty severe distortion. The perspective is pretty close to a tiny planet view. not to mention the significant workload of adding all the keyframes manually. Okay, time to do a range test. Now, according to Insta360, the mini remote will work at a range of up to 10 meters or 33 feet, which I have marked out here. Now, I do have the focus placed on the X4 rather than on myself, so you can see what happens here. So I'm going to walk away. We're going to get to 10 meters away and see if it still works, and maybe we'll even try to push it a little further. Okay, so let's just do a quick test. When I hit the record button, obviously the camera starts recording, and when I hit it again, obviously it stops. So let's take a walk. Okay, here I am at 5 meters away from the camera, and I'm going to hit the record button, and I can see on the remote, I really do like the little status light on the remote that shows me that it's recording, and I can see the red light blinking on the camera, so 5 meters, no problem. Let's go ahead and stop the recording. And now we are 10 meters away from the camera, or 33 feet. This is the specified range of the mini remote. Let's go ahead and give it a test. Starting recording. I hear it on the camera. I can see the red light both on the camera and on the remote. So we have a successful test result at 10 meters. Maybe let's take it a little bit further and see how far we can get. So now I'm around about 15 meters away from the camera, which is pretty close to 50 feet. So let's go ahead and give it a try. Start the recording. And I can see on the camera and on the remote that it is still working at 15 meters. And one last test. I'm not even sure if I'm still in camera shot, but I'm probably around about 20 meters away from the camera here, so about 66 feet. Let's go ahead and give it a try. And in fact, we are still working. Even at this range, we still seem to be working. So what's the verdict on the foldable selfie stick? Well, overall, I think it's a nice product. It's a good addition to the accessories range, and for the right situation, this can be very useful. It certainly makes stowing your X4 a lot simpler, whether you're packing it into a bag or simply putting it in a pocket between shots. But for me, I have to say my concern is the limited extension. This for me is a little bit short, and I much prefer the versatility that the standard selfie stick gives me. And added to that, as I mentioned in the captions earlier, there is no 1/4-20 mount on the base as there is with the standard selfie stick. Now, yes, of course, it does have the built-in mini tripod legs, but without that 1/4-20 mount, of course, I cannot connect it with any other type of mount, including a suction cup mount, a clamp, a handlebar mount, whatever the case may be. So personally, I think I'm going to stick with this standard selfie stick, but if those limitations do not impact your type of shooting, this could be a good go-to for you. And then there is the mini remote. Now, I have owned every Insta360 remote so far, including the original GPS remote, the 2nd gen GPS action remote, and the newer GPS preview remote. And when I've published reviews on all 3 of these remotes, there was one common complaint that I had, and that was that Insta360 didn't provide a simpler, less expensive remote. And of course, now we have exactly that. It is very simple, there is no GPS, you cannot switch modes on the camera. All you can really do is power on and off the camera and start and stop recording or take pictures. Other than that, it does have the very useful feature of a status light which shows you when the camera is recording, and it is USB-C rechargeable. And while the price of $30 in the US is not exactly cheap, it is certainly a lot less expensive than the other options if this meets your needs. Now in this video we were looking at the mini remote specifically in combination with the X4, and I'm sure many of you are interested to know how well it performs or even if it performs with other Insta360 cameras. Well, that is something I plan on checking out next, and I will be publishing that video in the very near future, so be on the lookout for that one. So that wraps it up for another video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel for a lot more similar content. If you have any questions, any comments, if you want to share your experience or make suggestions for future videos, please drop those into the comments section. Otherwise, thanks again for watching.